And then after that, I've taken it 1.
Mm-hmm.
2012. And then there's the independent variable GDP.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've multiplied the dummy variable.
GDP is independent variable, continuous independent variable.
Yes, sir.
And saving is the dependent variable.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Then I've taken the multiplication of these two, dummy variable and GDP.
So in which year have you taken the break?
It's in 91-92 for the first one. First model, I started that.
Okay.
And then I've regressed it. This is the.
So where are the regression results for the first model?
These ones. 92 onwards, there is this one.
Yeah. So how will you interpret the results?
Sir, the model is significant at 1%, significance level if you see it.
Right.
And so the p-values of all the dependent variables are also significant at 1%.
P-values are very low, so they are statistically significant.
Yes,
yeah. No, so, that is one. That is the statistical part. Now, what you conclude? How has economic reform influenced the relationship between saving and investment?
Sir, it has we can say that it has positively influenced that.
How?
So because the model is
no. First, what do you need to see? Just yeah. Hold it. Yeah. Okay. So what we are having, one is alpha, that is intercept. Let us call it alpha 1.
Okay.
Right. And what is alpha 2?
So alpha 2 is the dummy variables coefficient.
Okay. Alpha 2 is dummy variable. And what about alpha 3?
That is the GDPs.
Okay. And alpha 4 is D1 into GDP.
The GDP.
Now you just go down and write, or here in the no, just go little up. Yeah, in this open space you can write.
Yes. Yeah.
Between the two models. No. Just go little right. Say column H.
Column H.
Go little up. Yeah, from there you can write. So one is alpha 1. You write alpha 1. Is it significant? Yes.
One is significant. Yes, sir.
Positive or negative? Go to next column. Positive or negative? Negative. Okay, fine. Like that you do it for the others.
It's negative.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So alpha 1 is not significant at 1%, right?
No, but he is taking it up to 10%.
Okay, fine.
So, can you tell me what is the differential intercept here? Which of these coefficients indicate the difference in intercept?
Okay, zero. So alpha 2 and alpha 4.
Alpha 2 is for intercept and alpha 4 is for?
Alpha 2 is for intercept. Sir, alpha 2 is dummy variable, no?
So that is for intercept, that is differential intercept, no?
Confusing.
Okay, you write, I think you write pre-reform, you write, just leave one row and then write pre-reform. 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 Pre-reform period we are talking about. Reform. Pre-reform period. What is intercept?
Pre-reform period.
Just go to the next cell. Go to the next cell. Go to the next cell.
Sir, I'm in the next cell.
So there you have written period, no? Okay, anyway, you write here. It doesn't matter. You write to the next. That is, what is the intercept? Alpha 1?
Alpha 1 is 0. No.
Pre-reform period, what is the intercept? Alpha 1? Right? Alpha 1. And what is the slope? What would be the slope for the pre-reform period? Alpha 3.
Pre-reform 0. Yes, sir. Alpha 3. Slope.
I think, Faisal, if you can copy that equation from the Word file and paste, that would be easier for you to follow.
Okay.
Just copy that equation that I have typed in the Word file and paste it here. Go to the Word file, copy and paste it here.
Sir, did you share that Word file today?
I have already uploaded. Anyway, if you don't have, you can just later on you can verify. So what about the post-reform period?
Sir, it will be alpha 1 plus alpha 2.
Alpha 1 plus alpha 2.
And then the slope is alpha. Wait a minute.
So you just expand the
Alpha 3 plus alpha 4.
And just above this cell where you have written alpha 1, you just write intercept and slope. And here you write period. Here you write subperiod.
Here.
Yeah. Right?
Yes, sir.
Now, can we just write here in the result, just beside intercept you write alpha 1, then alpha 2, alpha 3, alpha 4. That would be easier for you to later on follow. Here in the result.
In the
where there is intercept, beside intercept you write alpha 1. Then for dummy variable you write alpha 2. Can you just increase the width of this column? Yeah. Now, given these regression results, can you tell me what type of regression it is? Coincident, dissimilar, parallel, or concurrent?
Sir, it's not. Sir, it will be concurrent. Every independent variable is significant, and
so it would be concurrent or dissimilar?
Concurrent.
Concurrent means same intercept.
Okay, no. It will not have the same intercept. They will be dissimilar. No, not
so
the same.
We are getting. You can write down somewhere that dissimilar regression. Yes, because the difference is in respect of both slope and intercept.
Yes, sir. Slope and intercept are different.
So which one will have lower intercept? For pre-refund period or post-refund period?
Post-reform, sir. Alpha 1, Alpha 2, yes.
Yes, because both are negative and it would be more negative.
Yes, sir.
And what about the slope?
The post-reform will have more slope, higher slope.
So basically there will be intersection, isn't it?
Yes, sir. 1 point.
Right. So if I want to interpret these results, I would say that following economic reforms, what has happened? Propensity to save has gone up. Isn't it?
From slope.
Because the slope is different and it is positive.
Yes, sir.
Alpha 4 is statistically significant and positive.
Yes, sir.
So I am saying propensity to save has increased. People are now more inclined to save out of their income. Am I right?
Sir, we're getting that from Alpha 4.
Right. Because Alpha 4 is statistically significant and it is positive.
Yes, sir.
So what would be propensity to save for post-refund period? Alpha 3 plus Alpha 4?
Yes, sir.
And for pre-refund period, it is Alpha 3?
Yes, sir.
Now the difference is in respect of Alpha 4. Now you see Alpha 4 is statistically significant. That means it is different from 0. And also it is positive.
Yes, sir.
So following economic reforms, people have become more, they have now more inclination to save. And propensity to save has gone up. Can I conclude this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So if Alpha 4 were negative, we'd say that propensity to save has decreased.
Exactly. Exactly. So are you now getting the interpretation or the implication?
Yes, sir.
So I am seeing here the estimated model is statistically significant. R square value and adjusted R square value both are very high.
Yes, sir.
And here all the coefficients are statistically significant, including the intercept, which is significant at 10%, as someone pointed out. Now what is happening? If I just compare the regression equation for the pre-reform period with that of the post-reform period, I see during the post-reform period, the intercept has become more negative because it is statistically significant and negative, and earlier also it was statistically significant and negative. So the negativity has gone up. Second, the differential slope, that is alpha 4, that is now statistically significant and also positive. That means during the post-reform period, the line has become more steeper. The regression function has become more steeper. That means households' inclination to save has gone up following economic reform, because you know that the slope of a saving function basically indicates marginal propensity to save. So the marginal propensity to save has gone up following economic reforms. Is it okay? Faisal, is it okay?
Yes, sir. Sir, what do we interpret from the intercept changing, like economically?
Basically, what is happening? Autonomous saving.
Okay.
Intercept is basically autonomous saving and it is negative. So basically, autonomous dissaving has gone up. Isn't it?
Yes, sir. People are saving. Okay.
Autonomous dissaving.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So when income is zero, now people need to draw more from their savings. Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So the two lines will intersect each other.
Hmm.
Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now you go to the next set of results.
So this is the next one.
Hmm.
Here I have taken a little buffer time for the policies that we were saying that it will take some time to implement. So till 1995, I've taken them to be zero.
Fine, no issue, no issue, absolutely fine.
So that this is the, wait a minute. Alpha, huh? So this is the regression result for that one.
So what do you see here?
So the adjusted R square, I wrote those observations somewhere. Huh. The p-value of all the independent variables has improved, and significance f has also improved, and the adjusted R square is also improved.
But otherwise you are getting similar results. Am I right?
Yes. Yes, sir. The coefficients are significant and negative of the intercept, and positive and significant for the slope, just like the first one.
So basically, broadly, from these two examples, broadly, what do we see? We see that following economic reforms, now people have become more inclined to save. Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, in one of the classes, I raised one point. That is, when we are doing some such work, some such test, it may be that there are multiple breaks. Here what we have done, for the sake of simplicity, we have divided the time frame into two phases. But I can have more phases. Say for example, one phase we can think of in the year 2008-9. Basically to capture the impact of global slowdown. Isn't it? Not. See, here we may not have sufficient. How many years data do we have after 8-9? Just go down. Only 3 years. So here it may not be possible. But suppose I have data for some more years. So I can think of introducing more dummy variables. Means dividing the time frame into more subperiods. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So more subperiods can be thought of, particularly when you have a long time series data. Now suppose I am estimating a saving function with time series data. What other variable or variables can I bring in? Can you suggest some other independent variables? One is income, another is policy change, which is captured by the dummy variable. What other variable can I think of influencing savings?
Sir, we can bring in the location also in this. Like, no, you can't. But
It's time series data, no, for the economy as a whole.
No, you can't.
So what other independent variable or variables we can think of? One example.
So wealth of the individuals.
Okay. Anything else?
So foreign direct investments,
Uh-huh.
foreign investments.
How? What is the logic behind?
Sir, if the economy has more investment from outside, then the income of the people will grow, and this will
So eventually
influence.
that is captured by GDP, no?
Oh, okay, yes, sir.
Even part of the income of wealth is also captured by GDP.
Yes, sir.
So rate of interest.
Exactly. We can think of adding one more independent variable like say rate of interest. So like that, we can think of extending this econometric exercise. And I have one more question. While income can influence saving can also influence income.
Yes, sir.
So to avoid the possibility of bidirectional causality like this, what simple adjustment at this stage we can think of? What simple adjustment we can think of at this stage to avoid the possibility of bidirectional causality?
So saving will impact income as a time lagged relation. So not
Right, exactly. So what would be your suggestion in that regard? So how to define this saving function so that we can avoid the possibility of bidirectional causality?
so the income at time t influences the saving at time t.
No, if I simply write that saving in time t is a function of income of year t minus 1, then what is happening? Lagged income can influence current savings, but current saving cannot influence the lagged income, no? As you rightly pointed out, saving of this year only influence future income. Isn't it? Hello? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So what I'm saying, if I write saving in year t is a function of income of year t minus 1, then what's the advantage I'm having? I'm actually fixing the direction of causality from income to savings. And I'm ruling out the possibility of the causality from saving to income. Because past income can influence current savings, but it is unlikely that current saving will influence past income. Abhinav, am I right?
Yes, sir.
So that's what I said in initial classes, that in some cases we can think of introducing some such time lag, particularly when dealing with time series data. Anyway, we'll stop.
So how would we do that? Like we would offset one of the columns or something like how would we do that?
Just you adjust in Stata. I will show you how to do it straight away. But here you can, okay, I'll just, Faisal, can you stop sharing?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
In this only, I estimated another model, the one Shivam was talking about.
Right.
When we took two dummy variables.
Absolutely.
Like this, there's one dummy variable and there's some buffer time in between there. The both of them are 0, 1, 1. And then there's GDP, then there's D1 into GDP and D2 into GDP.
Excellent. Yeah.
So
Then
he hasn't taken D1 into D2 into account.
Huh?
D1 into D2 should also be considered, sir.
No.
No, everything will be 0.
This is the same classification of the same variable.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay, sir.
So I estimated that model. Then there's like every independent variable has a p-value, like it's not
I mean,
significant.
it's not statistically significant.
Yes, sir, but the model is.
Yeah, but the model is. No, that is possible. That I said. I mean, there is every possibility that you will see a model statistically significant. R-square value, you see, it may be very high.
Yes, sir, it is.
Right. But hardly any coefficient is statistically significant. A simply possibility may be that there is high degree of multiplicarity.
Yes.
And here only we are saying that, I mean, there is no difference between, say, first subperiod and the year of crisis, or between year of crisis and the second subperiod. So I don't see any difference here. But again, first I need to confirm whether this model is having some problem of severe multiplicarity. First, I need to confirm that. Now, question is, in a very simplified way, how can you check multiplicarity? So first I'll discuss on that, and then we'll get back to this particular example.
Okay, sir.
To see if there is any severe multiplicarity problem.
All right, sir.
Okay, can you stop sharing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you all see Stata?
Yes, sir.
I'll just close these results and I'll go with let me just bring in a new data set. So we can think of data set 3 is 3, no 2, sorry, 2, this one. So what I'm doing, I'm regressing, say, ROCE on rest of the variables: export, capital intensity, R&D, advertising, vertical integration, foreign technology purchase, market size, distribution and marketing intensity, and market concentration. All the independent variables I have taken. And this is the model that I have estimated. Right? Now, what do you say about this model? When we go for interpreting, we say that the model is significant because the probability of F is very low here. The model has reasonably high R square and adjusted R square. It's reasonable. So the model has reasonable explanatory power. You can say moderate explanatory power, and it is statistically significant. And when we see the regression coefficients, we see the coefficient of many independent variables turn out to be statistically significant. Say, for example, coefficient of export, capital intensity, R&D, advertising, foreign technology purchase, market concentration, all turn out to be statistically significant. But at the same time, we see coefficient of some of the variables are not statistically significant, like say that of vertical integration, that of market size, that of distribution and marketing intensity. I'm not saying that it is necessary for a model to have all the coefficients statistically significant. It's not necessary. But again, a similar question may be whether there is any multiplicity problem. So what you can do, you can simply type VIF here after you estimate the model. You type VIF and these VIF values are given. Now we say that if VIF value is less than 5, we can say that there is no severe multiplicity problem. Though I have some other concerns also that I'll discuss when we go for detailed discussion on multiplicity. But here we see that these VIFs, all the VIFs are less than 2. All the VIFs here are even less than 2. So we can say that there is no severe multiplicity problem in the estimated model. Now, question is, what is this VIF? The full form of VIF is variance inflation factor. The full form of VIF is variance inflation factor. How these variance inflation factors are obtained? And that answer actually lies here. Here. When we discussed about bivariate versus multiple regression model, if you just compare these two, what do we see? This is basically variance of a particular coefficient in case of a multiple regression model, and this is for the bivariate model, right? And I had derived a generalized formula like this for a multiple regression model. This is the formula for variance of the estimated slope coefficient. And when we estimate bivariate model, actually we don't have this part in the denominator. Now you tell me, where will the variance be higher? In case of bivariate model or in case of multiple regression model? Hello?
Multiple regression model.
Exactly. By which factor?
So
remember, in bivariate model, it is sigma square u by summation of small xj square.
So now we're multiplying 1 minus r square in the denominator. So
1 by 1 minus r square.
Yes, and the factor is 1 by 1 minus r square.
So the variance in a multiple regression model is inflated by 1 by 1 minus r square j when we switch over from bivariate model to multiple regression model. Am I right? When we switch over from bivariate model to multiple regression model, the variance of the estimated slope coefficient is inflated by 1 by 1 minus r square j. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This is known as the variance inflation factor. So, what I'm saying, this variance inflation factor, if I write VIF J for independent variable J, it is basically 1 by this one. This is called the variance inflation factor, because as I am switching over from bivariate model to multiple regression model, the variance of a particular estimated slope coefficient is inflated by this factor. Now tell me, what is this R square J? What is this R square J?
The R square value when the dependent is regressed on all other independent variables.
No, when one independent variable is regressed on the rest of the independent variables. Isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So how to get this variance inflation factor? In Stata, if you see, we can straightaway get these variance inflation factors. But I'll just show you one example. You can do it in Excel also. Let me just regress, say KIR. I just take this one straight away, or export. So export versus rest of the independent variables. Then what is happening? This is auxiliary regression, remember. And this auxiliary regression is having R square value this. Okay, I'll switch over to Excel for the computation purpose. So what is VIF? So R square J, this is R square J, and then what would be VIF? It would be 1 by 1 minus this one. Sorry. The equals 1 by 1 minus this one. 1.4539. Let us see what value we had got here with respect to export. You see 1.45. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
I can just
Yes.
take one more example. Say I can regress KIR on rest of the independent variables. So KIR should be dropped from here. So KIR versus rest of the independent variables. And when I run this regression, I get R square value, this one. And then what would be the corresponding VIF? 1.945. So I can say 1.95. You see? 1.95. So if there are 10 independent variables, there would be like this 10 auxiliary regression, where we regress each of the independent variables on the rest of the independent variables. And in each case, we get a corresponding R square value. And then by using this formula, we compute the variance inflation factor. And it is suggested that this variance inflation factor should be less than 5. And when it is less than 5, we can say that this particular variable doesn't cause any severe multiplicarity. Though we will discuss about certain other aspects, certain other concerns later on. But when we estimate a multiple regression model, this part is very, very important. Second, now suppose in this regression model, what we had estimated initially, we see that coefficient of 3 variables are not statistically significant. One is vertical integration, another one is market size, and the third one is distribution and marketing intensity. Now the question is whether we can drop these variables. So I discussed yesterday in the class. For that we need to use the command test. Test vi, right? Then MSZ and DMI. Test VI, MSZ and DMI. What do we see? We see here that the null hypothesis is not rejected. What was the null hypothesis? The null hypothesis was that the coefficient of each of these three independent variables is equal to 0. You can see the null hypothesis written here. This test is based on the null hypothesis that the coefficient of each of these independent variables is equal to 0. And the null hypothesis is not rejected here. This apparently means that these variables don't contribute anything very significantly to the estimated model. And hence, I can think of dropping these variables. Now, what happens if I drop these variables? These are the results that I get. And if you compare this with earlier results, you will see very interestingly. In either case, the estimated model is significant. But in the second model, the value of the F statistic has improved. It is 9.86. Here it was 6.57. Can you tell me why did the value of the F statistic improved? Can you tell me? Why did the value of the F statistic improve? Why did it improve? Hello? There are certain changes. Just compare these two sets of models. This is explained sum of squares. You see here. This is explained sum of square. Explained sum of square, if you just compare, in the second model where we have less number of variables, it has gone down. This is residual sum of squares in the initial model, and this is residual sum of square in the new model. So unlike the we get lower ESS and hence higher RSS. That means the ratio goes down. Ratio of ESS by RSS, that goes down. Despite that, the F statistic improves. And that happens because of the change in degrees of freedom. What was the degrees of freedom earlier? You see 9 versus 105. And here it is 6 versus 108. Now you just see the formula of the F statistic. You see ESS goes down, RSS goes up. That means this ratio goes down. But at the same time, with dropping of these three independent variables, what do we get? We get this n minus k to increase, because now I am estimating less number of parameters. So k goes down, n minus k goes up, and at the same time k minus 1, this goes down. So the factor I am multiplying with the numerator, that goes up, and the factor that I am multiplying with the denominator, that goes down. And in the process, the ratio goes up and F stat improves. So here what is happening, with dropping of these three independent variables, the regression results are improving, in the sense that despite lower ESS and higher RSS, the value of the F statistic improves because of changes in degrees of freedom. Now I need to estimate less number of coefficients with dropping of these three independent variables. Next, if I just see this, what I discussed yesterday, this is called restricted model. Why is it called restricted model? Because I'm estimating this model by imposing the restriction that the coefficient of these three independent variables are equal to 0. I am imposing this restriction and I am estimating this model. And what is this model? This is called unrestricted model, because here I am not imposing any restriction. So this is unrestricted model, this is restricted model. And what we are doing in this test, we are seeing that with dropping of these three independent variables, if the residual sum of squares, if it is changing significantly. So how is this F statistic computed? This F statistic. What we are doing? Just recall what formula we discussed in yesterday's class. We are basically comparing what? I'm just showing the calculation here. It is residual sum of square of the unrestricted model. Restricted model. Residual sum of square of the restricted model. That means this one. Because this is improving, this is increasing. How it is increasing? Okay. Minus residual sum of square of the unrestricted model. That means this one. Divided by the number of restrictions. Can you tell me how many restrictions we are imposing here? Hello?
3.
3, right. Excellent. So whole by whole divided by residual sum of square of the unrestricted model divided by the degrees of freedom of this model for RSS. And what is that? N minus k. So in the unrestricted model, what would be the degrees of freedom? It is 105 for the RSS. So 105. You see, I'm getting 0.34667 means 0.35. And what did we get in Stata? You see 0.35. So if I want to carry out this restricted F test in Excel, I can do that. What do I need to do? I need to estimate simply two models. One with all the independent variables, another one after dropping the three independent variables that don't have the statistically significant coefficients. When I estimate model with all the independent variables, it is unrestricted model. When we estimate the model by dropping the three variables, it is restricted model. And what I need to do basically, I need to compute an F statistic. And how to do that? Basically, I need to use the formula that I have written and discussed also yesterday in the class. Basically, we use this formula. Residual sum of square for the restricted model minus residual sum of square of the unrestricted model divided by the number of restrictions whole divided by residual sum of square of the unrestricted model divided by n minus k. I have written in detail here. Here. This is the full model. This is the restricted model. But if you look at this formula, what exactly are we doing here? Here, what basically we are doing, we are trying to see if with dropping of these three independent variables, if there has been any significant change in the residual sum of squares. So what does this indicate? Here it indicates the change in the residual sum of squares as we switch over from unrestricted model to the restricted model. Then this is basically the base RSS, that is residual sum of square of the unrestricted model. So as compared to the
Sir, you're not audible.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, now you are.
So which part have you missed out? Can you tell me? I will repeat.
So just the last 5 to 10 seconds.
Okay, okay. So what basically I'm trying to say, here basically we are comparing how the residual sum of square, how does it change when we switch over from unrestricted model to the restricted model. That is when we drop the independent variables. And what do we see in the regression results? If you see, when we carry out this test, we say that the null hypothesis is not rejected because this probability is too high, much higher than 0.10. So here the null hypothesis is not rejected. That means these coefficients are not significantly different from 0. That means we can drop these independent variables. And even if we drop these independent variables, regression results are unlikely to change significantly. Is it clear, Shivam?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there is another very important aspect. So here basically we are carrying out a statistical test, restricted F test, to examine if we can drop some of the independent variables. The other very important statistical test is, in this particular case, means in case of multiple regression model, basically to compare the coefficients. So for example, if I see here market concentration, the coefficient is statistically significant and positive. And here, the coefficient of export intensity, that is also statistically significant and positive. So both market concentration and exports, both are having statistically significant positive impact on returns on capital employed. But if we compare the coefficient of export intensity is higher than that of market concentration, does it necessarily mean that export intensity has larger impact on returns on capital employed as compared to market concentration? Increase in market concentration means what? The firms are focusing on the domestic market. Increase in export intensity means what? The firms are focusing on global market. So this sort of comparison of the coefficients would be very, very important for strategy point of view, for policy point of view. So from policy or strategy point of view, we need to make a comparison whether exports or export intensity is necessarily having higher impact on returns on capital employed as compared to market concentration. Though the coefficient of export intensity is higher than that of market concentration, we need to carry out a statistical test. How to do that? For that, what we need to do basically, you just estimate the full model, then you write test, then export, put equal to market concentration. Test export equals to market concentration. See, this is the null hypothesis here. This is the null hypothesis. The coefficient of export minus the coefficient of market concentration is equal to 0. And interestingly here, if you see, the null hypothesis is not rejected. That means there is no significant difference in these two coefficients or in the coefficients of these two variables. That means the impact of export intensity on returns on capital employed is not statistically significantly different from that of market concentration. And that is very interesting. If you see, if you just make arithmetic comparison, this is 1.449. And here if you see, sorry, 0.14499. 0.14499 and here it is 0.391011 or 12 approximately. So this coefficient of export intensity looks arithmetically much higher as compared to that of market concentration. But when we make the comparison statistically, we don't see any significant difference. And that is the point I was discussing in earlier classes, that we shouldn't confine our discussions only to arithmetic comparison of the coefficients. We also need to make a statistical comparison. And this is what we are doing here.
So, but this is not statistically significant, right?
Right? That means they are not significantly different.
Okay, yes, sir. Got it.
That means the impact of export intensity on ROCE is not significantly different from that of market concentration. Is it clear? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So can you just quickly summarize what we are trying to do through this test? What we are trying to do? Or why some such test is important?
Sir, maybe determine the feature importances of two features.
Right. Say if I think from a firm's perspective, this sort of comparison will help the firms to decide whether to concentrate on the domestic market or to focus more on international market, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
But here what I am seeing, statistically there is no difference because the null hypothesis is not rejected. Though they are different arithmetically. So I can say it doesn't matter for the firms whether they concentrate in the domestic market or in the international market. This strategic change doesn't influence their financial performance. Now, what about the policy implication of it? Maybe the government needs to decide whether to control the monopoly power of the firms or to facilitate exports. And here it is seen that there is no significant difference. Now, if we confine our discussions only to arithmetic comparison of the coefficients, then the conclusion may be misleading. So, we shouldn't confine only to arithmetic comparison, but we should focus more on carrying out statistical comparison like this. And in this particular example, we see that the null hypothesis is not rejected. That means there is no statistically significant difference between the two coefficients. That means these two variables don't have any statistically significant impact, any statistically significant difference in their impact. Now we can make another comparison, say with some other variable, like say test export versus capital intensity. Here what do we see? Can you conclude?
So the difference is significant, statistically significant, and
which
the
variable
two
is having
features.
larger impact?
Sir, the export variable.
Because it is positive. You see,
yes,
here
sir.
the comparison is easy. Because it is positive, isn't it? Coefficient of export is positive and that of capital intensity is negative. Is it clear? So export will improve performance, capital intensity will lower the performance. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now if I compare export versus say R&D, what do you say?
So the difference is still significant at 10%.
Very good. And which variable is having higher impact?
Sir, the export variable.
Export is having higher impact. How? How?
No, sir, the RD is having higher impact because the coefficient is greater.
Exactly. So like that, we can compare across the coefficients of a multiple regression model. So three things we talked about in today's class. One is the issue of computing VIF and understanding if a model is having some independent variables that can cause severe multipolarity problem. Second one is to decide whether we can drop some of the independent variables from the model. Again, that should be backed by restricted F-test. And the third one is basically comparing two coefficients, whether two variables are, to understand if two variables are having any statistically significantly different impact.
Sir,
Now,
I had one doubt.
yes, please.
We want to compare the coefficients of the variables,
Right.
not the variables themselves, like whether they are
No, we are comparing
statistically
the
different or
coefficients.
not.
Here we are comparing the coefficients. Now, that's what I told yesterday in the class. How are we comparing the coefficients? That is given here. If you can recall yesterday's discussion, this is how we are comparing the coefficients. We are trying to understand the difference in impact of the variables in terms of the difference in the coefficients. Is it clear? Hello?
Yes, sir.
What we are trying to understand? If the two variables are having different impact, am I right?
Yes, sir, right.
Now, how to understand the impact of a particular variable in terms of the coefficient? Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The coefficient, the slope coefficient only reflects, no? How does this variable influence the dependent variable in terms of its statistical significance, in terms of its sign, and in terms of its value? So when we say we are trying to examine if there is any significant difference in impact of the two variables, we need to examine that in terms of the difference in the respective coefficients. Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And this is what we have tried to do. And this is basically the formula. Here I have talked about what? T-test, but the test that is being shown here, it is you see F-stat. Where from it is coming? It is basically coming from here. Here. What is happening? Suppose these two variables are having same impact. Then what will happen? Alpha 1 will be equal to alpha 2. If the two variables are having same impact, then alpha 1 will be equal to alpha 2, isn't it? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Now you replace alpha 2 with alpha 1. So then this equation can be rewritten in this fashion. And then I can rewrite this equation as alpha naught plus alpha 1 into x1 plus x2 plus ui as usual. So this is my unrestricted model and this is my restricted model, because I am switching over from this model to this model by putting this restriction. So what you need to do? You need to estimate this model. You need to estimate this model, right? And then you need to make a comparison of the RSS. The way we did earlier. Is it clear? Is it clear? Hello?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Now let me just show it in Stata. What variables we are comparing? We are comparing, say, for example, export and capital intensity. Right? Whether the coefficients of these two variables are the same. We need to add these two variables. We need to add these two variables. So what do I need to do? I need to estimate. First, I need to generate a variable that is x, which is equal to, say, export plus capital intensity. Okay, and then you re-estimate this model by, this is basically the restricted model. Sorry, unrestricted model. Then you go for the restricted model as this being replaced as x. This is the restricted model. So now you compare the two RSS. So what do I need to do? RSS of the restricted model, that is this one, minus RSS of the unrestricted model, divided by the number of restriction. Remember, here we are putting only one restriction, that is coefficient of export is equal to that of capital intensity. So 1. Okay. Whole divided by RSS of the unrestricted model divided by the degrees of freedom. What is the degrees of freedom? You see here. This is the unrestricted model and the degrees of freedom is 105. So divided by 105. And this is 11.5063, means 11.51. Let us see. I think somebody is waiting. So if you just see here what statistic we have got, you see 11.51. Is it clear?
Yes, sir, I understood.
Okay. So what I'll do, I have already uploaded a file on comparing the coefficients, validity of restrictions, etc. I would suggest all of you to see that file. And what I'll do, I'll basically add some comments to this file and I'll upload. What we have done in different steps. I'll write down the comments and I'll upload. The way I have uploaded this file, I'll just show you one file that already I have uploaded. this validity of restrictions. You can see what we have done at different steps. You can see this file. In the same way, I will add some comments to these regression results and I will upload. So we can stop here and